Gear up your caravan, spread out your map and head for the depths of Melmoth Forest, where you'll track the movements of the native squirrels. Where do they go? What do they do? And why is it that they behave so strangely? Explore the forest, record the squirrels, report your findings and uncover the secret at the very heart of the forest. A big thanks to Noodle Cake and Pop Agenda for the early review code. There's only one place to start, and that's the art style. At first glance, it coloured me intrigued. The base colours change from chapter to chapter, and you do surprisingly get used to them. But getting used to them is not a term I'd ever want to use to describe an art style in a game. All art styles and creative visions like these are ambiguous and subjective. I never really understood why any art critic was more qualified than me to say whether something looks good or not, and you certainly won't catch me flicking through game stores like
Bullshit. Derivative. That I love. I absolutely love. I want it. It's everything.
Even though I admire the thought, the creativity and bravery to opt for this style, and it's totally playable with certain colour choices being a little more easy on the eyes than others, overall I just didn't enjoy this art style unfortunately. One of my favourite things about the forest and immersing myself in all its beauty is its natural colour, but this felt more like a hand-drawn intense Instagram filter. Now, I'm not sure there needs to be a logic behind the art style other than just trying something new and creative, but when it came to the gameplay, which I'll get into shortly, it seemed to help in tracking the squirrels, but I'd guess this art style is more for creative reasons than logical ones. The game starts off with a little environmental puzzle where I had to find a gas can to fill up a generator, as well as find the key to my caravan, which would be my home throughout the game. But that was it for any sort of gameplay variety, because once I was in my trailer, the limited gameplay loop began. But first, a little bit about the story. I work for the Viago Institute, and my job is to collect data on the squirrels and their habitat, as they're an endangered species in the Melmoth Forest. The construction company Panorama Corp have plans to build on the forest land and need Viago's blessing to build once a study has been completed. Panorama also intend on keeping the squirrels' existence quiet, and especially don't want the press to find out that my fuzzy little friends are roaming about, because this would likely hinder their construction plans. I know, right? That story blew my socks off as well. I'm 100% all for the preservation of trees and wildlife, but to enact such a meaningful and strong message into a game would need a unique, wild and imaginative storyline to persuade gamers that Nuts is an intriguing game to be played. They achieved that with the trailer, but did they achieve it with the game itself? When I first saw the trailer and realised it's a game about squirrels, I thought there's no way they'll ever top the greatest squirrel game ever made. That is, of course, the N64 classic Conker's Bad Fur Day, with its impeccable writing and masterful storytelling.
I say, little fella, you better get this fat-ass bitch off of my back pronto.
Gee, so many people around here want me to solve their problems. What are you gonna do for me then?
By placing cameras in the day and capturing the images at night, we gather the proof and then fax them off to my supervising professor Nina Schwartz for her thoughts on the squirrel's activity. Nina had previously worked in the area for the same cause. That's the gameplay loop. Camera placements became boring and repetitive very quickly. Our job is to place these cameras in spots that capture the next part of the squirrel's journey, and even though you have a good idea of where it's heading, a slightly misplaced camera would mean going back to your trailer for some sleep, only to wake up the next day to move your camera 2 feet. I understood the mechanics behind the puzzle, but more often than not I'd already solved the puzzle. A lot of the time, by simply looking around, I'd have found the starting and ending points of the squirrel's journey without the need for a camera, but I had to capture it on camera in a specific order, and this just became frustrating because even though you'd figured out their route, they might jump over a rock that you weren't expecting them to jump over, and therefore they're out of the camera's shot, meaning it was back to bed for you to come back in the morning to move the camera back another 2 feet, and this was just a slow and tedious process. This is the game. I can only imagine this is some people's actual job or even hobby, and who am I to judge what's a good job and what hobbies are fun or not? But I am here to give my opinion on experiencing this particular pursuit in a game, and let me tell you, I found it brutally dull. Now, I know I must sound like I've never experienced narrative-driven games before and I need explosions and action in my games for me to label it enjoyable, but I genuinely love most narrative games, like What Remains of Edith Finch, Dear Esther, or Firewatch, just to name a few that I've really enjoyed in the past, but this had no complexity to it while seemingly trying so hard to be complex. It was the repetitive nature of the gameplay that just sapped the momentum in what's already a fairly bland story. Even when I reached the chapter which had a little more action in it, and by action, I mean I got to chase a squirrel, it was over in a flash and I was back to laying out cameras again and again and again. I feel like I've genuinely been a little bit conned, and I feel like a lot of other people will feel the same way, because when we all first saw that trailer, everyone was like, fucking squirrels and dynamite. Squirrels and dynamite? Are you having a laugh? That sounds amazing. I'm in. But in reality, I think most gamers will end up just being frustrated at not being able to just capture these squirrels on camera. And even the biggest animal-loving gamer, and I put myself in that bracket, will end up feeling like a right mug. And you'll just turn against those cute, furry little balls of fluff.
They're squirrels. Squirrels. What could they possibly want? Your nuts? Do you think?
The game ran fine mostly, sitting well above 60 FPS, but sadly one area tanked the frame rate. For some reason, I don't know why. This can be understandable in some games, but high poly counts and built up areas are usually the reason, but they're tiny maps in Nuts and there's no textures. It's just walls and walls of the same colour, so I didn't really understand the huge frame drops in that particular area. Nothing was duplicitous in the game, and doing my best not to spoil anything, and this is me comparing it to Firewatch because the story's told without any psychological effect that would leave me pondering the outcome. It's the sort of game where the ending is hugely important and dictates whether you sit back and go, wow, or just, oh. I was left deflated and worst of all, bored. I'm sure there'll be smarter people out there that can find a deeper meaning behind this game, and I'd love to hear the possible theories in the comments below. One thing I did enjoy was the sound design in the forest. Some eerie songs would unravel a sense of wonder when exploring the forest, as well as the tranquility and sounds of nature portrayed really nicely too. The voice acting for the one and only voice, Nina, was also performed really well, showcasing a genuine passion for her pursuit of squirrels. Nuts is a short game. I finished it in just under 4 hours. I really wanted to enjoy this one and will always commend any bold and brave attempts at creativity, but unfortunately the whole package just felt so personal to the developers that I almost felt excluded. I'd experienced everything the game had to offer in a gameplay sense after the first half an hour and thought, well, that's just a means to an end because I'm really here for the story. The story just left me feeling flat though. The ending is what would have saved the game, and I just know what gamers like myself will be expecting from a game that had squirrels gathering dynamite in the trailer. I hope I've not alluded to any spoilers, and it's difficult not to considering the endings in games like this play such a huge role, but I was just left disappointed and truly saddens me because I wanted to like this game so much more than I actually did. Nuts is out on Steam on the 4th of February. Thanks for watching the video, peeps. If you've enjoyed the video, then snap that like button and nut that subscribe button. Peace out.